Okay. Let's see. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. I am glad to be back on the live streams. I took a little hiatus in August, if you noticed. My July goals didn't go well, so I decided I would do no goals August, and then kind of just ended up turning that into a little bit of a summer vacation for myself. So I'm looking forward to getting back here on the live streams, meeting with you guys every Tuesday, answering any questions that you have. And I did want to do kind of a little bit of a different format for the live stream tonight. And I got this idea from Verna. So Verna, when you watch this, thank you for the idea. She had asked during one of the previous live streams if I could kind of give an update on what I was reading or share, what I was reading. So I thought for this one, it would be fun to just share my notes so far on the book I'm reading, which is very heavy. The Millionaire Mind by Thomas J. Stanley. Oh, it's kind of hard to see. Okay. By Thomas J. Stanley. I am maybe like a quarter, almost half of the way through now. So I had some thoughts on it, wanted to read a section of it for you so you can kind of get a taste of it. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have read this book. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and put in the comments, if you have read this or not. It is, I think this came after his other book, which I have also read, which is The Millionaire Next Door. So I mentioned I really liked The Millionaire Next Door, but just the first half of it. And then the second half of it was really statistic heavy and kind of hard to read and a little bit redundant. I will say I have already noticed that a bit in this one as well, a little bit redundant. And I enjoy statistics, but still, it's very statistic heavy. So today I just wanted to do kind of a casual chat about the book, read some of the stats for you guys. Yeah, I'm curious what you're working on. We will do either 2 or 3 5-minute silent work sessions. You guys are free to work on whatever you happen to be working on, anything that you want to get done for your finances. Some things that people typically work on would be things like their side hustle. So working on their side hustle during the 5-minute work sessions. Now would be a great time to do a September mid-month budget update. So adding up your actual expenses so far in September and comparing them to your budget. So we're halfway through the month, so you should be about halfway through your budget. Then you can look at it and say, oh, okay, am I running hot in certain categories or am I running under? So, you would know right away, like if you are overspending on restaurants, for example. So it would be a great time to do that. This work session, I'm actually just going to read. I'm going to continue reading my book during the silent work sessions. I thought that would be a fun way to, and then if I pick up any additional hints, I'll add them to my notes. Hints or tips, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to start with kind of an overview. So The Millionaire Next Door, his first book, was more about kind of how frugal wealthier people are, kind of trying to break the belief that a lot of people have that rich people, all live in mansions and drive Ferraginis or whatever kind of cars we think wealthy people drive. I remember some of the stats on there were like, none of them had spent more than like $40 for a watch, that kind of thing. I think that it said that the most popular car among wealthy millionaire people was like Toyota Camry. It also broke down some of the beliefs or negated some of the beliefs about whether or not wealthy people are inheriting all their money. I think that it was like 60% of millionaires were essentially first generation millionaires. So people that hadn't inherited large sums of money. And I'll get into that a little bit more. He does bring that up again in this book. Mandaraj is here. Audrey, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for joining tonight. So I was just talking about The Millionaire Mind, the book that I'm reading right now. The first thing that I thought was notable from this book was Thomas Stanley talks about income statement affluent versus balance sheet affluent people. So this is kind of breaking up wealthy people into two groups. So your income statement is like your income and your expenses. So to say someone is income statement affluent, that would mean that they are earning a lot of money, but also spending a lot of money. So their income is high and their expenses are high, compared to someone who's balance sheet affluent. And your balance sheet is your assets less your liabilities. So it's essentially your net worth. So someone who is balance sheet affluent has saved a lot of money. They have a lot of assets and few or no liabilities, is how he talked about the different kinds of affluent. Entourage, Camry too rich for my blood, girl. Oh, so I used to work at a rental car place. And so I got to drive all kinds of cars, and Toyotas were like the main part of the fleet. So tons of Camrys. I think the Camry is really nice. I agree with you. I'd probably go Corolla if I was going to again. That's funny. Too rich for my blood. Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because you would think, oh, if someone has multi-million dollars, why wouldn't they, have a super fancy car? And, to go back to the comparison of income statement versus balance sheet affluent, he would probably say that income statement affluent people probably are those people that drive the fancier car compared to the people who are more balance sheet affluent. So the premise for this book was a study that they did among 733 millionaires. It was a nationwide study. He goes into a little bit how they identified the millionaires, how they found them. He talked about how the millionaires didn't all live in the areas that he was expecting them to live in. So like really expensive neighborhoods with high value prices. He said they found most of the people in those neighborhoods were that income statement affluent. I just like to think of it as the Joneses every time, the Joneses. So comparatively, the millionaires in the study were mostly found inside of kind of mid-range neighborhoods. Now, a lot of the times they did have kind of a nicer house, kind of on the nicer end of the neighborhood for where their house was and price-wise. So I thought that was interesting. They identified the neighborhoods that millionaires were likely to live in and then sent out surveys to those neighborhoods. So that's how they came up with the 733 millionaires that they used for the study. He'll get into this in a little bit, but some of them are, it sounds like most of them actually are like decamillionaires or deca, I don't know how to say it. So having like $10 million or more. So I wanted to read some of the demographics that they talk about. So he talks about how most of them are around 54 years old. 54-year-old male is the demographic that he identifies. They've been married for about 28 years, and 1 in 4 has been with the same spouse for 38 years or more. So mostly married people. On average, the millionaires surveyed have about 3 children, 92% were married. Of those married people, 95% had children. He talks about how the average household had a net worth around 9.2 million. So this surprised me because when I read The Millionaire Next Door, I kind of got the impression that it was like most of the millionaires in the world were like right around $1 million. So like people who saved in their 401ks that, that worked, not self-employed, but worked for an employer for a long time. So this kind of surprised me because that's a big net worth, 9.2 million. He said that the typical or median level of net worth is 4.3 million. So maybe that's the per person figure compared to the household net worth. It said the average is skewed upward by people who have a much larger net worth. So like with all statistics, the people that are like the 1% skew all the averages up. He said the household total annual realized income is $749,000 per year. That's a lot. Oh, the median figure is 436. So once again, that's the 1%ers skewing those numbers higher. So median income of 436,000 per year. That's a lot. And then what else did it talk about? Some of the millionaires have inherited a portion of their wealth. Nearly 8% inherited 50% or more. So 8% inherited more than half. 61%, though, had never received any inheritance, financial gifts, or income or estate. So I'm glad that they did mention that statistic again. So 61% would be considered self-made millionaires, I think is essentially what he's getting at. They probably got their net worth lowered with the economy. Okay, so this reminds me, that's a good point. So this study, I think, was done in the 1990s. So these numbers are going to be different than the numbers that they would have today, because that's 20 years ago now. The first book was in 1996, and I couldn't find a date on this one. I'm sure it's on here somewhere, but I couldn't find it. I assume that it was in the last few years of the 1990s. So definitely they would be subject to any growth or dips in the market. And I'll get into that a little bit more if they are invested in the stock market or not. And then, let's see. 97% are homeowners, 97% of the people surveyed. Most of them bought their house for the average price of $558,000. And because that's 20 years ago, that would be, I'm sure that'd be $1 million house now or more. So still not outrageous. Like you would think that they have like mega mansions with like 5 jacuzzis, but it sounds like most of the people surveyed kind of lived in regular houses compared to mega mansions. In spite of having high value of their homes, they generally have small outstanding mortgage balances, so pretty low mortgage debt. Most of them lived in a home that was constructed 40 years ago, so not brand new homes. Only 27% had ever had a home built for them, so a custom home. And then vocations, it talks about how 1 in 3, 32% are business owners or entrepreneurs. 1 in 5 are senior corporate executives. So that's like the C-suite people, CEO, CFO, CTO, those roles. And then it's a nearly the same proportion, 9% are physicians, so doctors, and 1/3 is retirees, corporate middle managers, accountants, woohoo, representing, sales professionals, engineers, architects, teachers, professors, and housewives. It says business owners are the richest of the group, but senior executives are often among the ranks of the multimillionaires. Nearly 50% of their wives did not work outside of the house, so stay-at-home parents, because they said that most of them had kids. It says they are well educated, 90% are college graduates, and I'd be really interested to hear how the statistic has changed, since I know a lot of people these days end up not going to school. So I wonder how that would skew for the millionaire households surveyed, how many of them had graduated college. I bet that statistic is outdated. It says more than half, 52%, hold advanced degrees. So master's degree or doctorate. And then, let's see, say on average, they vacation overseas about once every 2 years. I would have thought that would be like quarterly. Someday. He talks about very few of the millionaires surveyed scored higher than a 1400 on their SATs. And very few of them are, Greek? Phi Beta Kappa. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that. Many play golf and or tennis, and there's a strong correlation between golf and level of net worth. Okay, this one breaks my heart. It says they don't consider themselves do-it-yourselfers. Those who do consider themselves DIYers have significantly less wealth than the average for the group surveyed. Oh, that one hurts me because I would have assumed that they were like kind of do-it-yourselfers. And, kind of thinking back, if I was making $749,000 per year or whatever, I probably wouldn't mow my own lawn or snake my own drains anymore either, which are some of the statistics that they share that they outsource. So some of the things that they don't do anymore or don't do. They don't consider themselves to be workaholics. They spend their time socializing with family and friends. When they work hard. Sorry, that's my dog. Focus our energy to maximize our return on efforts. So my husband brought up a good point when I was telling him about this, which is that when you are surveying people, that there's, you're kind of relying on them to self-report, and people aren't that good at self-awareness all the time. And I don't know, that's just a trend that I've noticed. Not everyone is good at accurately describing how they are. So maybe they don't consider themselves workaholics, but maybe the people in their life would, kind of thing. But anyway, I did think it was interesting that they say they're not workaholics. That would make you broke now with college debt. Okay, sorry, I saw this pop up a minute ago and now I've lost my train of thought on what I was talking about when you said that. That would make you broke now with college debt. Are you talking about like DIYing instead of kind of like using your time to make more income? They say they believe that it is possible to balance your financial goals with an enjoyable lifestyle, and that their lifestyle often brings them into contact with people who end up becoming their clients. So they're saying that they do leverage like networking events in order to, meet people and grow their networks, it sounds like. Oh, 30 degrees. Yeah, okay, so this is a good point. It said 90% of them were college educated. Yeah, great point. It costs more now than it did in the 90s to go to school. So that's a good point. Yeah, even masters. I gotcha. Thank you for clarifying. Let's see. So why don't we go ahead? Let me think here. Why don't we go ahead and do session 1? What are you going to work on in session 1? Do you have anything lined out to work on? Are you going to read or update your budget? Excuse me, what else could you do? Side hustle stuff. Those are some of the things I like to do during. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. So my Chrome tab and my timer and share. And we'll go ahead and let's go. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I will follow up with you after the 5-minute work session. And I do have more notes to share. I just wanted to kind of give that brief intro first into kind of the book and what the premise is. So, okay, I'm going to be quiet now. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, it's the end of the first work session. Let me go ahead and turn my banners off. How'd it go? Enjoyed your reading? Or working on what you have. So you said, I think I'm going to read free library app. I started 2 weeks ago and I've listened to 12 audiobooks. Wow. I'm reading one ebook, had to renew that. Cool. Audiobooks are great. So what genre do you like? Are you listening to like personal finance or personal development or fiction or nonfiction? Just curious. I tend to only read like self-development books, but sometimes I'm like, I should probably get some like fiction books and something a little bit less taxing on the brain, I guess, compared to self-development all day, every day. So I wanted to share so like I mentioned, there is a bit of an issue, I think, with like just taking what people are saying when they're self-reporting. So this book talks a lot about how millionaires tend to say that like the things that were really important for them to become millionaires were things like integrity, courage, hard work. But the problem with doing a study like this where you're only researching or you're only surveying people who have made it is that like survivorship bias of, you're not studying other people to say, oh, okay, people who aren't millionaires also say they have integrity, courage, and work hard. So it's hard to draw causation from that. Like, oh, all you have to be to become a millionaire is, honest, courageous, and hardworking, because that's not true. There'd be a lot more millionaires if that's all it took. I haven't read anything yet about privilege, like talking about like the race of the people that were surveyed or in the statistics, none of them reported their race as being a benefit. Like there was a big list of things that they said helps them become millionaires, and it was things like integrity, courage, and hard work. But it's a little hard to take the statistics there. They did talk a lot about vocation and opportunity in the market. So vocation being that they found that the career that they picked was instrumental in becoming a millionaire. And then if they were entrepreneurs, they said, oh, being able to identify and take advantage of opportunities in the market was a big part of how they became wealthy. So I thought that was interesting because I don't think a lot of people really think about that a lot. We kind of have in America this kind of like follow your passion mindset, which I think is good. I think people need to find work that is fun for them and fulfilling. But not everyone looks at like the return on investment for their education or kind of what their career income will be. So let's see, same here, we're reading some fiction. Nice. Oh man, I'm getting a horse today. So I thought that was interesting. I actually did, when I went broke in college, I remember looking up like the 8 jobs, the 8 careers that were going to be in the highest demand for the next couple decades. And that's actually how I came to decide to do accounting for my degree anyway. And I did that a year into school because I actually started as a psychology major. So I didn't think of that at first. And then when I was broke, I was like, okay, it's going to be really important that I can make stable income because that's important. So yeah, just thinking about picking something that's going to make good money, make a good return, or that's going to give you the lifestyle you want, I think is a good tip. They say that most of the millionaires surveyed say they think differently from the crowd. Excuse me. Once again, that seems like something that maybe a lot of people who aren't millionaires would say the same thing. So I don't know if there's a ton of value there. But I do, yeah. This is kind of like Dave Ramsey's idea, like, oh, be weird, like go against the grain. Normal is broke kind of thing. So I do think that it's important to look at your financial identity and kind of be okay with being different from other people in order to both make more money and to be able to actually save money and hit your goals. So I did like that point. They said social skills was critical to becoming a millionaire. They said, okay, so in this book, there are like 2 whole chapters, and the chapters are big, about intelligence and how most of the millionaires, okay, so it said that the average GPA was about 2.92 out of 4. So pretty average for GPA. So kind of breaking the myth that all millionaires are super intelligent and that's how they became wealthy. And he talks about how there's actually, there's other kinds of intelligence rather than just like your ability to score well on an SAT. He talked about like leadership skills, being able to talk to people as a kind of like emotional intelligence, and then creative intelligence, which is what he was talking about being able to identify profitable niches in the market and then exploit those, well, not exploit, but, to make products in that niche in order to capitalize on it. And he talked about it so much. He just repeated it over and over again, all these statistics about intelligence. And so I was almost wondering if he didn't have some kind of inferiority complex about intelligence, because it really seemed like he had something to prove with like saying that millionaires are not the smartest people who have ever walked the planet. Some of them were 4.0 GPAs, but yeah, the average being 2.92 kind of illustrates that point. He also talked about how actually some of the millionaires had really poor grades and did really poorly in school. And he talked about how some of them that actually motivated them to, do well in other areas. Maybe that's like exceeding in being an athlete or kind of having something to prove, that chip on your shoulder. If your teacher tells you, oh, you're not college material, or, some of the other horrible things that teachers say sometimes to kids, that actually, some of them reported that made them feel like they had something to prove. And because of that, they said they kind of worked harder and took more risks to try to get ahead than their classmates. Once again, they said that they had a high moral code, that they, were very honest people. And then it did say that that they will like shop in bulk. It said half of the millionaires surveyed shop at bulk stores like Sam's or Costco. So then I was a little bit like, okay, still a little bit frugal. It's that they get their shoes repaired more than just going out and buying shoes, getting their furniture reupholstered instead of going and buying new. So not as frugal as I seem to remember reading in the other book, The Millionaire Next Door. But once again, kind of reiterated that they do, that they are pretty frugal. They do some frugal things, at least. He said there's a correlation between physical health and fitness and being a millionaire. That the people surveyed had regular workout routines, were in good health. So that's interesting. It's weird because you don't know, like, chicken or egg, which came first. Like, is someone who is healthy and work out a lot more likely to become a millionaire? Or is someone more likely to become a millionaire? Oh my gosh, the opposite, you know what I mean? That, works out. So the level of discipline with your health, does that translate into more financial discipline? Or if you're wealthy, do you just have more time and resources in order to work out? That's what I was trying to say. So which is it? Like, is it overall discipline, health helping you save money, or you just have the time and money? Because not everyone does. They said that millionaires are good at taking criticism and ignoring rejection, that they had a kind of a grit about, not taking it too harshly if somebody said they didn't like them or their product, being able to handle rejection from sales, since a lot of the millionaires were sales professionals. It said that there was a high correlation between entrepreneurship and millionaire status, that a lot of them own their own businesses, which is cool because, I talk about like side hustling. And I know there are some subscribers in here that do side hustles or just are entrepreneurs. So it's kind of nice to hear that. I know they say it's hard to make it as an entrepreneur, but if you can, then it sounds like it's pretty rewarding financially. And that goes along with the ability to take risks. It said that people who are millionaires tend to take more risks financially than other people. So like being willing to invest their money compared to just keeping, a little bit of money in cash kind of thing. And then the last note I had on here was passion for their career. This came up a couple of times, just saying that being passionate about what they were doing paid big results for their finances. So saying things like, okay, I was able to make more money because I was passionate about it and I worked harder because I enjoyed the work. So I think a good takeaway would be try finding things that make money that you enjoy. So that way you're kind of like pulled towards becoming wealthy compared to like having it be kind of a constant battle of trying to get yourself to do things to make money. You know what I mean? Okay, let's do our second 5-minute silent work session. I'll share my screen again and we'll do 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. That's the end of work session 2. So I was just reading about, kind of in order to be courageous, kind of how to manage fear, because they said that, that a lot of people are held back from starting a business or pursuing higher pay out of fear. And so they were saying things that they do to help offset the fear that they feel is hard work, planning, decisiveness, and the power of positive thinking are the top 4. So that's all I read in that session. I'd love to hear, was there anything about the Millionaire survey that surprised you? Anything that you thought was true about like millionaires or wealthy people that he disproved or said something differently? So I'd be interested to hear that. And if there were any helpful takeaways, getting to hear kind of what millionaires do. Is there anything that you could implement to help your finances? What has been most helpful for me so far? Well, most depressing was the DIY thing, for sure. And then it did kind of surprise me how high the percentage was of self-employed people. Makes me feel like I need to work much harder on my side hustle and business. And then, dealing with criticism is always a bit of a hard one too. Mondirage, I thought they would say that their houses made them rich. Interesting. Yeah, thinking about, and it did say that they had good appreciation on their houses because they had bought them like 50 years ago. But yeah, I think you're spot on there. I would have thought that too, that that more of them would have had like real estate investments. Like, it said entrepreneurs and like CEOs, sales professionals. It didn't really talk at all about like real estate investors. I wonder if once again that's kind of more of a trend currently. So I wonder if in the last 20 years that more people would be real estate wealthy. Call it that. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, any other questions for me? Feel free to ask them or drop them in the comments. I am going to try to get back on the wagon and do these consistently on Tuesdays again, since I took my little break in August. And upcoming content, I've been working on kind of some controversial opinions about personal finance. I've been working on what else? Oh, like when to hire a coach. So when to hire like a personal finance coach, just talking through like how can you DIY your finances so that you don't need to, and then also like what to do if you're stuck with your finances, that kind of thing. I think that's it. I got my wall painted. It's gray now. I'm very excited about that. Oh my gosh, Andrew, hello. The more controversial, the better. Oh, maybe we should do an interview when I publish that. See what you think about my most controversial opinions on personal finance. I've got some doozies. I liked your fire video recently. What's wrong with fire? So thanks for jumping in. I'm actually done, unless you guys have questions or anything. Probably just go and drink a lot of water because I don't know if it's smoke. I shouldn't complain about smoke because in Montana, it's nowhere near as bad as it is in other states right now, but definitely feeling a little hoarse today. Thanks, Rox. Oh, thank you. You're sweet, Audrey. Yeah, I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to get back on Tuesday meetings for the live stream. And yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for participating. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.